YouTube? I am back with yet another rankings video. This time today is November 8th. It is election day, and so to get everyone's mind off of this awful, dreaded day that is also a little bit happy because it brings an end to this overall shitty election, I am going to rank all 6 of the superhero movies that came out this year. Yes, that's right. We got 6 superhero movies this year between the 3 major studios that are still relevant, that being Marvel Studios, owned by Disney, 20th Century Fox, which owns the rights to X-Men and now Deadpool, and Warner Brothers, which owns all the rights to the DC characters. So between those 3 studios, we got 6 superhero movies this year. So I'm going to rank them. I'm going to tell you the good and the bad, what I liked, what I didn't like about each one of these movies, and yeah, let's get started. So, naturally, we start at the bottom at number 6, and coming in at number 6 is an entry that some people might put at this entry on their list, some other people might not, but it is personally my least favorite superhero movie of 2016, and quite possibly one of the worst superhero movies I've seen in the past couple years, and that is Xmen Apocalypse. After the mind-boggling time set whatever of X-Men Days of Future Past and just the sudden fresh new taste of Deadpool, I thought that X-Men had a chance of once again regaining the height and status that it had once maintained in the early 2000s. Nope. Instead, what we got is the absolute base definition of generic, with Oscar Isaac's Apocalypse presenting yet another bland, generic, world-ending villain that nobody gave a shit about. The unexpected, gimmicky time jump to the 80s this time started to feel really, really thin and unnecessary, and honestly, the characters all felt like carbon copies of their former selves. Like, you got McAvoy, you got Fassbender back, and they're doing a great job as per usual, except their looks are starting to kind of override the fact because McAvoy should be at the point where he's starting to look like Patrick Stewart, except he still looks like 30-year-old McAvoy. Jennifer Lawrence just does not give even a little bit of a shit anymore. She is just all white all the time. She clearly looks checked out. Everyone else is literally just a side character. There are too many characters to even balance out. I like the younger versions of the characters, but they're just, it's almost like Bryan Singer couldn't figure out what to do with this movie after Days of Future Past was so good, so he literally just started repeating things from other X-Men movies. You've got the Alkali Lake scene from X2, you've got another Quicksilver speed sequence, and just the overall payoff, it's so unnecessary. The third act is completely awful, and the worst thing about this movie is the fact that I know this franchise can do better. I've seen good installments from this franchise, and what do? They just do the same thing over and over again that they've been doing for 16 years straight. So that is why X-Men Apocalypse is at the very bottom of this list at number 6. Coming in at number 5 is most people's bottom entry in this list, and that would be Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. The film that was supposed to kickstart the DC Cinematic Universe had so many expectations going into it. This was going to be the first time that you ever saw Batman and Superman, the 2 most iconic superheroes of all time, squaring off in a no-holds-barred smackdown, finally unable to get past our ideological differences of Batman's dark, depressing nature on humanity versus Superman's positive nature. It was going to be everything the fans wanted, right? Nope. Instead, we got about 2 hours of Batman doing his thing, with Ben Affleck trying as hard as he can, even though he's got a really shitty script to work with, and Superman ending up being a cameo in his own movie, with Henry Cavill just looking more bored and mopey this time, rather than actually, expanding on his character that was set up in Man of Steel. Yes, there were a few good things to enjoy about this movie. I am one of the very few people that actually did enjoy Jesse Eisenberg's portrayal of Lex Luthor. I thought that it was a really new, cool, fresh take on the character. Of course, I love Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. Just, really wish that she'd had an actual part in this movie and not been a cameo. There was just so much about this movie that could have worked that didn't. It was 2.5 hours of such horrible editing, horrible pacing. Lex Luthor's plan just went completely nowhere. And of course, the Martha scene, I don't even need to go into any more depth on that. It was just, oh my god, what a disappointment. And of course, I can't blame most of the blame on Zack Snyder. I can't blame most of the blame. I can place most of the blame on the Warner Brothers executives, but in the end, it really falls to both of them. They were just unable to put together a movie, and it was ultimately the movie that kickstarted what we were going to get for most of this year, which is shitty corporate-mandated blockbusters that don't feel like they have any substance, that were just put together by a series of people who had no clue what the fuck they were doing. So that is why Batman vs. Superman makes my number 5 spot. Coming in at number 4 is a film that I sort of enjoyed, when I first saw it, and then looking back, I just found more and more problems with it, and that is DC's second entry this year, Suicide Squad. Released in August, late summer, directed by David Ayer. This film was another film that had a lot of promise going into it. It was going to be a different change-up from what we've gotten in DC so far, because as you know, DC was scrambling to like, oh, we gotta make this movie fun and poppy, because people hated how dark and depressing Batman vs. Superman was. So what did they do instead? They took David Ayer's cut, and David Ayer is a fantastic director. I had a lot of faith in this movie going in, primarily because of him. And what did they do? They tried to turn it into one of the shittiest music videos I have ever seen. First 10 minutes of this movie were literally just shitty pop song intros, and every single time one came on, it took me out of the movie. They had so many great copyrighted songs, which I don't understand why they wasted the money on, because they felt so out of place in the movie. And once the movie actually got going, it was sort of good. That middle act was where it really had promise, because I really did enjoy the characters in this movie. Will Smith gave an excellent performance. Margot Robbie, probably the best thing about this movie. But all the other villains I really enjoyed. I liked Jai Courtney as Captain Boomerang, El Diablo, Killer Croc. They were great. Enchantress, hands down, probably the worst villain this year, and that's saying something because there were a lot of shitty villains this year. But yeah, Suicide Squad was a movie that ultimately had a lot of promise and really let me down at a lot of parts. Generic, shitty third act with, Skybeam into the air, faceless army, all that. I have to say, Viola Davis as Amanda Waller, she gave a good performance, but ultimately her character just ended up being very, very poorly written, and Suicide Squad was just another superhero movie that had so much promise that ended up completely falling flat and disappointing a lot of people, myself included, which is why it only makes my number 4 spot. Coming in at number 3 is, we are finally out of the turds for now, and we are back into the good stuff, which is Marvel, which is why my number 3 is the most recent entry on this list, and that is Doctor Strange, which just came out this past weekend, the 14th installment in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There's things that I liked about this film, and there's things that I didn't like about this film. For more in-depth, you can go and watch my review on it, but just overall, in terms of bringing something new to the table, Marvel kind of fell flat on this one. I will say that there were a lot of things that I did like about this film. I really enjoyed Benedict Cumberbatch's performance as the Sorcerer Supreme. Really thought he brought that, asshole characteristic of the character to a much bigger height, somewhere that Tony Stark was never able to do, because there was a lot of comparisons between Stephen Strange and Tony Stark, but I like how he was able to make sort of a different character. I really liked I like Mads Mikkelsen, even though he did just get cast as generic Marvel villain number 14, which sucks because I don't know why they keep wasting these great actors in these shitty villain roles. Like, I know they have a build-up, but come on. You hit it with Loki. Can't you, do it with somebody else? Like, Jesus, that's Jeff Bridges, Tim Roth, Mickey Rourke, fucking Robert Redford, Hugo Weaving, Ben Kingsley. I'm not going to count Christopher Eccleston because he's kind of forgettable. Lee Pace, Corey Stoll, James Spader, and now Daniel Bruhl, and now Mads Mikkelsen. Come on! It was visually fantastic, though, I will say that, but like, a lot of the performances were really iffy. Didn't like Benedict Wong. Chiwetel Ejiofor was horrifically miscast, which sucks because the way that movie was working, they were setting him up for the next villain. Tilda Swinton, everyone is loving her. I gotta say, I didn't find anything special about her performance. Her character motivations were a little iffy, which sort of gave the villain more explanation, but overall, Doctor Strange was one of the more rather mediocre films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like I said though, the thing about Cumberbatch's performance that made me really enjoy it is the fact that with that first post-credit scene, it really makes me interested in seeing how he's going to fit into the rest of the universe. So that is unfortunately why Doctor Strange only makes my number 3 spot. Coming in at number 2 is the event film of the year. I've said it before, it's a film that launched this summer, the one that gave it so much promise going forward, and it's Captain America Civil War. I fucking love this movie. I've said it before. I don't want to try and repeat a lot of the points that I've said before, but I can't get over it. The Russo brothers, they knocked it out of the park again. The fact that they're able to bring this many superheroes and tell such a great, compelling story that involves each and every one of them. No superhero ever felt like they got more screen time than the other. It managed to strictly maintain itself a Captain America movie while still continuing the story arcs of all the other Avengers, including the 2 new ones they brought to the table, which of course is Black Panther and Spider-Man. I enjoyed the hell out of this movie. That airport fight sequence, great smackdown. A little bit of problems at the end though, like from a writing standpoint in terms of Marvel. It really showed their refusal to accept any form of stakes, to change things up even a little bit, to make sure that those characters are still set right on that track going towards Infinity War. So that is why Captain America Civil War only makes my number 2 spot. Coming on to number 1 is the film that launched the superhero season of 2016, and that is February's Deadpool. This movie was fantastic. Just everything about it, from the fact that Fox didn't want to make this movie in the first place, to Tim Miller leaking the footage, to Ryan Reynolds campaigning this movie for years, and just to have it come together with a very low budget and work as well as it did. Just everything about this movie, from Deadpool, the fact, from an origin story standpoint, from a love story standpoint, from the way that the action is executed, the way that this action is executed, by the way, is so beautiful. It's so hard to tell that this movie did have a low budget. Every actor's performance was great. Ryan Reynolds, of course, stole every scene he was in. Perfect, ideal person to play the character. In my opinion, probably the best superhero casting we've gotten since Downey Jr. as Iron Man. Everything about this movie worked. The script was so well written. The meta characters, the way that it made fun of the superhero, the X-Men franchise, and just every other superhero movie that's come before it. It was, in my mind, one of the best superhero movies that I've probably ever seen, which is why it makes my #1 spot. So those are the 6 superhero movies that were released this year, and those are my rankings. We got some good ones, we got a lot of turds, and just, I hope that I enjoyed next year's superhero season. So next year we are getting another 6 movies, and I'm just going to run it down for you in the order they're coming out. We got, the first installment for next year is another Fox entry. We got Logan in March. Then after that, you've got Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 in May. Then you've got Wonder Woman, which got bumped up to June or July. I don't remember which one. Then Spider-Man Homecoming in July. And then you've got, wrapping it up, you've got Thor Ragnarok in the beginning of November. And then it's going to wrap up with Justice League in November. My predictions are Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Logan and Thor Ragnarok are locks for being great. Spider-Man Homecoming and Wonder Woman, I'm a little bit iffy about. And Justice League is just going to be complete trash, absolute garbage. So, but those are my thoughts. Tell me what you think. Let me know what your guys' rankings of Let me know your guys' rankings of the superhero movies this year in the comments below. Like, subscribe, go to my Twitter @MovieNerdReview, go to my website, movienerdreviews.com. That's it. I'll see you guys next superhero season.